We have an update on a World War II veteran that was critically hurt in this high-speed police pursuit. He was in the car with his wife on the way home from the store, and that's when they were rear-ended at a red light at Sunset and Stephanie in Henderson. They were struck by a stolen vehicle being pursued by police. One of the suspects was shot by officers. And we do have good news to report tonight. 101-year-old Herb Muskin is doing much better. His family spoke to us outside Sunrise Hospital, and Kim Passoff is there live right now with the latest.
Yeah, so Herb was seriously injured in that crash. His neck was broken, and his family worried that because of his age, 101 years old, that he would not recover. But as he has been doing his entire life, this World War II veteran has continued to fight.
He said, "Am I in the hospital?" I said, "Yes." I said, "But you got to get better." And he smiled at me, and that's all I needed.
Herb Muskin and his wife Sherry have been married for 67 years. Last year, Fox 5 profiled their love story. After his years in the service, Herb became an orthodontist and raised a family in New York, retiring to Las Vegas because of his love of blackjack. A full life nearly ended by a police pursuit. A vertebrae in Herb's neck broken in the crash, and in the hospital last Saturday, problems with his airway.
They had to have a crash cart come, and they came right away and helped him.
But the World War II vet has continued to fight.
I want to go home.
Herb is ready to go home and get out of the hospital, doing better each day now, able to speak once again after being taken off a ventilator this week.
He's smiling at us and recognizing us.
He's definitely aware, and we're glad to have him back.
His son Drew says there are several signs he is doing better. He's asked to see his dogs, and the former orthodontist even noticed his nurse's braces.
And she smiled, and he goes, You're beautiful. And I thought that was fantastic.
It is Sherry's birthday this week. And while her wish that Herb will be home won't come true, she hopes they will be able to celebrate Herb's 102nd birthday together.
Get him back to as normal as he could possibly be, and take him home and have the rest of his life happy.
And his two sons have dropped everything and flown from the East Coast to be here in Las Vegas while their father does remain in the hospital. The family has set up a GoFundMe account. We have a link to that on our website, fox5vegas.com. Reporting live outside of Sunrise, Kim Passoff, Fox 5 News, local, Las Vegas.
As for the two women who were in that stolen vehicle during that crash, police say Lorraine Alvarado was shot by officers after they say she flashed a gun. She's still at the Clark County Detention Center tonight. The other suspect, Cassandra Alvarez, also remains in jail.